Hi everyone! Hi Master Gardeners, hi local community members, hi internet community members. Welcome to our channel. Thank you for clicking on our video. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lisa. I am the horticulture technician and Master Gardener coordinator at the VCE Stafford office. And I'm really jazzed because we have something super exciting for you today. My boss and mentor, VCE Horticulture agent Guy Mussey, is going to lead us on a guided tour of Cossey Park. That's right, Fredericksburg's own botanical garden. If you didn't know that Fredericksburg had a botanical garden, that's okay. Hopefully this video will inspire you to come visit. It is always open to the public, always free, and is maintained by our amazingly dedicated and wonderful master gardeners. If you're not local and you can't visit, that's okay too. This video is going to introduce you to some really intriguing, really unique, really just interesting plants. So I think you're going to enjoy it. Thank you again for stopping by. Without further ado, I present the man, the myth, the legend, Guy Mussey, and his early spring tour of Cossey Park.
Hi, I'm Guy Mussey again with Virginia Cooperative Extension in Stafford County, and this is another video in a series of videos that we're doing, instructional videos for the general public and master gardeners. Now today we have a really surprise visit to Cossey Botanical Park. This particular park is a collection of a lot of plants that you've probably never heard of before. It was started 12 to 14 years ago by myself and master gardeners as a teaching and a research park. It's more of a botanical zoo than a park in that I've just put a lot of the plants in here that I love. The whole idea came from years ago, when as I always do, a plant ID class every year, and I usually use the campus of the University of Mary Washington and all the plants on that, and I wanted something different to show some different types of plants, things that aren't common, that are everyday use. And so I went around looking for places. I came across this site here in Fredericksburg. I and the master gardeners presented the proposal to the council. We got unanimous approval to start planting. And so we did a number of years ago. This particular botanical park is all done with soft money. That is money that is donated by garden clubs and the MAGRA, Master Gardener Association of the Central Rappahannock area. All the money has gone into plants. I put just about nothing in hardscape or anything, because that's really what I wanted to do here for identification purposes and to show and teach people about some really nice plants. This particular park, it has about 140 some different species of plants planted throughout. We're going to take a look at those in the next several videos and introduce you probably to some plants that you never saw. So let me get started. Right here is the Chinese snowball viburnum. And isn't it just gorgeous in all its bloom right now? This is Viburnum macrocephalum. It's a rather large viburnum. Well, let me go back a little bit and tell you how we designed this. This was not designed by individual plants for individual spots. It was a conceptual garden, if you will, or park, where I have an area where I have just my maples, Japanese maples and other types of maples. I call it my maple grove. I have an area for evergreens, or evergreen woods, beech, different types of European beech or beech forest. And then this, along the avenue here, is the viburnum hedge. And this was to be planted with all kinds of different viburnums, not to be sheared into a hedge, but to grow to show their natural beauty. And this is one of them, the Chinese snowball viburnum. Not much fragrance, but you can see if you had this in your yard, if there was a big enough yard for it, it would make quite a show. Okay, now we're over here at another plant, but before I describe what we'll be looking at here, let me just say that we will not get to all the plants in this particular video. We'll do some of them, and then we're going to do a series of videos later. Now, this particular plant is an elderberry. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the common native elderberry, Sambucus canadensis. It's a beautiful plant in itself. Grows completely around this part of Virginia. But now there's a lot of cultivars out of various elderberries. This next one is elderberry, or Sambucus nigra, black lace, and it's a gorgeous little elderberry with almost black foliage, very cut leaf, has a nice texture to it. And if you like that odd sort of plant and to be sort of a focal point, this would be the one that you want. Now, if you grew this, you might want to grow it along in mass with the one behind me, the lemony lace elderberry. That is Sambucus racemosa lemony lace with that nice bright yellow foliage. It stays that way all summer. And this black lace has that deep purple, blackish foliage all summer together. You can see that you can get a lot of color with growing these in mass without any flowers. They do have flowers, like elderberries do, which are quite nice in themselves in the spring, but just the foliage is certainly worth planting them for. The other thing I want to say, just as a side note, even though these are not native, I love native plants and I encourage everyone to plant them, but I'm an equal opportunity plantsman. I love a lot of different types of plants, and as long as it's not invasive, I'm anxious to put it out there if it's going to do the job and look nice when I plant it. So these are the elderberries that I wanted to show you. We'll go to our next plant. Okay, this plant right here in bloom, full bloom again, is the Chinese fringe tree, Caenathus retussus. We have a native, Caenathus virginicus, and I would show it to you. We have one planted here in the park, but it's not blooming now. And I wanted to show you what's blooming at this point in April. We're at the end of April, and not everything is blooming right now. So this is a fringe tree. It looks very much similar to our native fringe tree, which I highly recommend that you would plant in your yard. It has these gorgeous strap-like flowers. Thus it gets its name, fringe tree, from it. I remember years ago when I was at the University of Kentucky, there was a patio that had these planted in the middle of the patio. And from the road, which was a little higher, you look down, in full bloom, it looked like a cloud just hanging over that patio. Absolutely beautiful. In bloom, it has nice yellow fall color to it. It's a little different from the common fringe tree, Virginicus, and by the leaves here are a little smaller, a little thicker, but all in all, it's a great tree, and it is not invasive, so I would highly recommend either use this or use the native Caenathus virginicus. Okay, the next plant I want to show you is Deutzia gracilis, or slender Deutzia, and you can see it's in full bloom right now. It's a gorgeous plant, and it's well behaved. By that I mean it's not going to get real big and real lanky looking. This has never been pruned or never been sheared. You can see it has a nice round habit to it. I remember when I was at Penn State, at the President's Mansion at Penn State, we had a whole row of these, a hedge of these, never sheared, that just had that natural round habit. And in the spring, have these beautiful white flowers. This is actually in the hydrangea family of plants, although it's not hydrangea, it's Deutzia gracilis. So here I am with a really interesting plant, something that you probably wouldn't plant for ornamental reasons, although I think it's a beautiful plant, but it's just one of those oddball plants that just intrigues me with some of the qualities of it. This is the northernmost citrus plant that you can plant. It's actually an orange, Poncirus trifoliata, and I think the taxonomists have changed it to citrus trifoliata. But again, a beautiful plant. It will bloom. It's already done blooming, actually, and it gets the white orange blossoms with that beautiful orange fragrance to it. And you can see the little orange oranges already developing. Once they grow all summer, usually in the fall when they ripen, they're small, they're about 1.5 inches or so large with very thin rind. I just pop them into my mouth. I just love eating them. Very tart, but a great plant for that. So it has that spring interest of flowers, fall interest of the orange fruits, and the best thing about it is the winter interest of this plant. If you take a close-up of it, you can actually see the spines or the thorns are curved, look like little claws. This is actually a cultivar of Poncirus trifoliated called Flying Dragon. And I just love it because it's something that would really call attention to your property. And you know, if you're not going to get many kids playing around it because of these sharp thorns, but very interesting plant for that alone. Here we are in my evergreen forest or evergreen woods, whatever you want to call it. It's not big, but we have a lot of different varieties of evergreens planted here. I'm standing right now in a circle of dwarf evergreens that were donated by Tracy Blevins and her husband Bill. She was one of my master gardeners, and we have these dwarf evergreens planted throughout the park. This is one planting of them. I'm not going to go into each individual one, but they are certainly beautiful. Tracy has and Bill have donated these for the park. They also have donated. They have a business called Plants Map, and they do very nice labels. You can see some of the labels here that they actually have a QR code on them that you can get the app and you can put it up to it, and it'll tell you everything about that plant. So it's very nice. And generous of them to donate this for the park. Okay, I'm standing in front of a large pine. Certainly it would be too big for a city yard, but it could take the place of the eastern white pine if you wanted something different. This is the limber pine. Pinus flexilis. It has beautiful blue-green large or long needles on it, gives that real nice feathery texture to it, nice color to it. But you know, I like plants not just, as I said before, have beauty, but have some interest as well. This is called flexus pine, or limber pine, for a reason. If I take this, they're very flexible, and I can actually tie it into a knot, as you can see, and it doesn't hurt the plant at all. Okay, now, is it something that'd be something neat for kids or for your neighbors to see? Certainly a unique interest that it has, and it's drawn me to this plant for that quality alone. All right, this plant is one of my favorites. Cupressus arizonica, the Arizona cypress. It's not a cypress, but it's the common name to it. And this is blue ice. That's a cultivar name, and you can see how gorgeous this foliage is. I was first introduced to this at the Green Springs Arboretum in Northern Virginia. There was a little one in our rock garden. Now this thing will get large. It'll get 50 feet or more. But growing this in the yard, it does take a little time for it to get up to that. You can see where it gets its name, blue ice, from the color of the foliage, a very icy blue to it. A little unusual for plants, I think, this bright. And I certainly would make certainly a nice accent point. Has great texture to it. Just for the color alone, I would plant this one. Okay, this plant right here is the weeping blue Atlas cedar. Just a few words about common names that we use every day. We call junipers red cedars and arborvitae white cedars. Common names can be very misleading. true cedars are in the genus Cedrus, which is what this one is. We have 3 of them that pretty much thrive in this part of Virginia: Cedrus atlantica, or the blue atlas cedar, Cedrus lebani, or the cedar of Lebanon, and Cedrus deodora, the deodar cedar. All have different qualities, beautiful plants. They're usually large plants. But this one is really unique in its weeping ability. You can see, if you really, again, like that strange characteristic in a plant, this certainly has it. This is Cedrus atlantica pendula, and you can see why. This would make a great accent plant, or focal point near a front door. I've seen these in yards around here in Fredericksburg. Just a beautiful plant. It has that nice blue-green foliage to it, and that rather unique growth habit. Okay, I'm standing next to one of my favorites, the lacebark pine, Pinus spongiana. I first was introduced to this at the National Arboretum with a very large one. This will get to be a large tree, probably top out about 70 feet in ideal conditions. This one, of course, isn't that old. And what's interesting on this plant, well, is the bark, which I'm sure you can't see from here, but it has sort of a mottled bark. Looks sort of like a sycamore. As it gets older and you can see it better, it actually has silver and light green, cream colors, even a deep purple sometimes. A beautiful addition as far as the bark goes. Now, everything I've read about, if you go online, you read about it, and you look at some of these plant sites, they'll say that the flowers are inconspicuous. Because it's a pine. They don't have big flowers like our flowering plants. Well, look at this plant. These are the female plants, which will turn into cones. And against this dark green, you can see that it's very ornamental and very beautiful. So I contend with those that say it doesn't have beautiful flowers. This in itself is very ornamental. Gorgeous plant. Okay, this lovely little evergreen is one of my absolute favorites, Psidiopodus verticillata, or the Japanese umbrella pine. Unfortunately, it's still small, and someone pruned the bottom of it, but when this is in full tilt in 30-35 feet, it's absolutely gorgeous pine. I remember when I was at Penn State, we had a planting of these near one of the labs of maybe 6 or 7 that were 35-40 feet tall, and they absolutely give a nice texture to the area. You can see it gets the name umbrella pine by the needles, which are very thick, and they're in a whorled pattern that looks sort of like an umbrella. You can see that quite, it gives a very nice, interesting texture to it, and just a real nice plant that I would certainly plant in a patio in the backyard somewhere. Makes a very interesting one to use. Here we have the plum yew, Cephalotaxis Harringtonia, a beautiful, nice little plant. Now, I'm from up north, Pennsylvania, where we had many different types of taxus, Taxus cuspidata, Taxus densiformans, and various taxus. This is Cephalotaxis, so it's not a true Taxus, it's in the same family. I first became acquainted with this plant when I was in Florida, where they grew an upright form of this as hedges and as screens in their yards, and they would shear them into these nice boxes, if you will, or walls of green. When I moved to Virginia, I knew I would be leaving some of the plants I love so much down there in Florida, and I found that you can actually grow this plum yew here. This would take the place of taxus. You don't see a lot of taxus here in central Virginia. Some places you might, but a plant like this stays evergreen, and it shears very well. So you can imagine a nice green evergreen hedge made out of this plant. Again, it's a little nostalgic for me to grow here. Okay, this large evergreen, Cryptomeria japonica, or Japanese cedar, and again, it's really not a true cedar as I explained earlier, but nonetheless still a beautiful plant. It is a large plant again. It'll probably get 60 to 70 feet. And there are some really nice specimens, large specimens, planted on the University of Mary Washington campus, which I teach every year. But I wanted one in my botanical park because it is a little bit unusual. It's got a beautiful texture to the needles, nice awl-like needles to it, these long strings on them. Gives a real handsome appearance. And to add to that, the bark, which you can't see too well, is exfoliating in long strands. This is sort of brownish here, but I've seen it get almost orange or reddish orange, which adds a lot of ornamental value to it. So if you actually have a place that you could plant this would certainly be a nice addition to your yard if you have the room. Okay, we're back to something in bloom. This next plant, Aesculus carnea Fort McNair. Fort McNair is the cultivar name of this particular horse chestnut. These horse chestnuts and buckeyes are all in the genus Aesculus. And you can see I just love this plant, and I picked it for the park for a good reason. For one, here in Virginia, this part of Virginia, many of the horse chestnuts will actually get scorched in the heat of the summer, and the leaves will start to turn brown. This one doesn't seem to do that. It seems to keep that nice clean foliage, but even more so, if you went out and bought an Aesculus carnea, which is a red buckeye, they have beautiful red flowers to it. Most of your buckeyes and your horse chestnuts have white, these panicle flowers, but this Fort McNair is known for this pastel pink or coral with the yellow in it. It gives it a really unique look and a beautiful look, as you can see for it. This will get about 30 or 40 feet. It will make a nice tree in your yard, and in the spring it really shows off with those beautiful pastel flowers. Aesculus carnea, Fort McNair.
Welcome back to my dining room. Pretty cool stuff down at Cossey, am I right? Really cool stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. We hope to make this a whole series so that as things change at Cossey Park, as different things come into bloom, different things really start showing their colors, we can catch all the horticultural action for you. So thank you for watching this early spring tour. We hope to have a late spring tour in the next couple of weeks. And if it has inspired you to come visit Cossey, Cossey is right down on Little Page and Grove. Like I said, always open to the public, always free. Come see all the work that our master gardeners do to maintain that beautiful park for our community. Thanks again for stopping by. If you have questions about Cossey or if you have comments, you can leave them below. And there's always more information available on our website, the VCE Stafford website. Thanks again. We hope to see you back real soon.